Have you ever been on a yoga retreat?
I have not been to a yoga retreat.
How can you be an ultra spiritual person without going on a yoga retreat?
Uh, that's a good question. I would dare say that I'm spiritual enough that yoga retreats are forces of nature that want to come to me rather than me going to it. It's like if you're in college, you wouldn't go to first grade because you're already beyond it. So
That's
it's,
true. I understand, but I mean, you can imagine how it is, right? Like how people behave on yoga retreats, and so it makes me wonder if you were to go on a yoga retreat, where would you go?
yeah, well, undoubtedly South America. For sure, because yoga originated in the Far East in India, so it makes sense that South America would be the most important place to go on a yoga retreat. Specifically, because I think Costa Rica is a very spiritual sounding name to tell my friends where I'm going.
You'd think that could actually be retreats that are authentic outside of India.
Yeah, in fact, the authentic India retreats are the ones I'm not interested in going on because I think they're too close to the roots of yoga. I think how yoga has been improved to make it flow better on Instagram. I think that's something India is way behind in the times, and I don't really want a part of their way of doing yoga. I'm really all about what can yoga do for me, and if it's doing something for my Instagram account and teaching me how I can be better at doing Instagram, then that's what I'm interested in. And I think that's why I would want to go to a yoga retreat anywhere but India.
And yeah, I don't think in India they will let you bring your cell phone, right? To take a lot of pictures.
Yeah, they don't even have a word in their language for Instagram.
Yeah, that's
At least not a word that I know of. I don't
that's
speak
true.
it.
I don't know of the word either. What exactly do you pay attention if you were to book a yoga retreat? Where would you focus to make sure that you're not going to experience one of these very authentic retreats?
It's a good question. I would definitely want to look at the instructors who's leading it and completely judge the book by the cover. In fact, I would definitely recommend not reading anything about the description of the yoga retreat, but just looking at the man or woman or various people who are leading it and asking yourself, are they incredibly beautiful? I think it was Gandhi who highly advocated judging a book by its cover.
Yeah, I
Because,
didn't know that, but thanks for enlightening me.
yeah, it was definitely maybe Gandhi who said that. So, yeah, you can, uh, I think that is absolutely the scientific specific way to pick the best yoga retreat for you.
So would you say that the yoga retreat instructor is the most spiritual of them all?
The participants should definitely think that the yoga retreat instructor is more spiritual than them. So I think the responsibilities of the yoga instructor are to help and assist the attendees in thinking that the yoga instructor is more spiritual than them.
It makes me wonder, sorry for this direct question, but don't you think California is a perfect place for a yoga retreat that you would attend, Ben?
No, because statistically speaking, almost everybody in the world lives in California. So it's not very exclusive. Um, Part of the yoga retreat success model that I advocate is it needs to have an element of exclusivity into it. The population of Costa Rica, for example, is much smaller than the probably trillions of people at this point that live in California. So if you want to be spiritually set apart uh, from your yoga friends, you can't just stay where all your yoga friends already are and where they've already been. You have to go somewhere different.
That's true. Out of curiosity, what do you think of Mexico?
In Mexico, people don't do yoga. They do joga, from my understanding. I'm very fluent in Spanish. And I think yoga is a wonderful offering that Mexico brings to the world. So not only do I think highly of Mexico, but I feel that Mexico thinks highly of me.
Do you think that a retreat really deepens a practice? If you go there, you're going to be a yogi that is going to be like unreachable for the rest of the people.
Mm. Yeah, I don't think a yoga practice has anything to do with getting good at yoga. In fact, I think the very term practice implies that you're not very good at yoga because it means you're having to practice because you're pretty poor at it. So I'm all about doing execution of yoga. I don't need to practice it. And I don't advocate other people practice yoga. You ideally should be so good at it that you simply execute yoga. And it takes a lot of practice to get to the point of being able to execute yoga or
Do you think,
yoga.
yeah, it depends on where you are, right? But do you think there is a better yogi in the world than JP Sears?
Well, I don't like to think very much because that involves using my mind, and I don't like to be trapped by my mind because it's not very spiritual to be trapped by my mind. But I think that if I were to think, I probably wouldn't come up with anybody who's better at yoga than this very enlightened sounding being that you mentioned.
Are there any video? Are you planning to do any videos of you doing your best asanas and stuff, or it's not something that you would consider?
It's
It's only fair to share with the people.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider it, but I am considering whether or not to consider it.
If you're good, so good, the best, why don't you open your own yoga retreat?
Hmm. That's a good question. Opening up my own yoga retreat, I feel would be taking me off my purpose. I think dealing with a lot of people who are uh, out to make a killer living at yoga, who are looking to provide an energy exchange for their yoga training instead of actually paying for it. I feel as though that would be a distraction and um, just not something that I would want to put my attention on.
But if you were to do one, to organize one, to put all the effort that I know it's not necessary, but how would you do it? How do you imagine a retreat organized by JP Sears?
Yeah, there would be a lot of dolphins involved. So, dolphins swimming in the ocean, I would definitely make sure to have them on staff. Um, I think monkeys in trees would be a very valuable part of it. I think aggressively vegan food served by aggressive vegans at the yoga retreat center would be incredibly important. Um, yeah, and I think charging a handsome price of $25,000 US would be important so that people would feel as though they're getting a lot of value from their retreat experience. And I wouldn't teach yoga at the yoga retreat because I think at the fundamental core of the yoga teachings is the yoga teachings are trying to teach you that you have nothing to learn. I think that's exactly what yoga is trying to teach you. So I think I would be doing people a good service in the yoga community by refusing to teach them yoga.
But you would still have some instructors, of course, good looking instructors, so people would go, right? Or
Absolutely. I would have the best good looking instructors available, and they may or may not know how to do yoga. But quite honestly, it doesn't matter because they would be dressed in yoga clothing.
yeah, the, talking about yoga clothing, what do you usually wear? What do you like to wear for for executing yoga? Sorry.
Well, that's one question. The other question is how much do you just not wear doing yoga? And it depends on where you're at. But if you're going to wear clothes doing yoga, what's most important in order to allow you to achieve incredible feats of flexibility is wearing the tightest clothing possible that restricts your movement, specifically pants. Um, so pants that allow your circulation to circulate at the absolute medically safe minimum is important. I like to use a practice of, okay, if I wear a large size of pants, then I highly advocate subtracting 2 sizes from that in order to get the appropriate size of yoga pants. So if I wear a size large in normal fitting clothes, then I should definitely wear a size small of yoga pants. And that's how you get the appropriate yoga attire.
Now, if I'm small already, I should be wearing kid size, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Preferably small kids sizes.
Okay. And if I understand well, then you are an advocate of naked yoga. That would be ideal for your retreat.
Well, I'm not an advocate of naked yoga. Let's just say it that way.
Okay. But you would encourage someone practicing it?
I like to trick people into thinking that uh, them wearing clothes while they're in front of me is just them succumbing to the societal shame they have about the God-given beauty of their body. Absolutely.
So going back to this imaginary yoga retreat, right? How do you think people would communicate between each other? Because all of them would be high, like ultra spiritual, of course. So do they even need to talk between each other?
Talking is very low vibrational. My preference is telepathic communication. Even that can be a little bit low vibe. I think sometimes astral projecting to a place where you're not in order to meet someone else is it's a little bit more of a higher vibe communication. So in other words, leaving the place where you're at with the other person so that you can go somewhere else to communicate a different plane. To me, that's not only the most practical way to do it, but it's the most spiritual way to do it.
Okay. And finally, once it's all done, right? What's the one thing a person should do when returning home so they keep this ultra spiritual feeling?
Uh, it's very important when a person's returning home from a yoga retreat or a yoga class that they stop by some kind of a store or a cafe while they're wearing their yoga outfit, so that more people have the pleasure of seeing them wearing their tight, restrictive clothing that is very inappropriate for the new environment that they're in.
Thanks for the advice. Just an existential question that I have in here to see if you can reply to this. Why, if yoga is 5,000 years old or so, it's considered the new age or the newer age, as I've heard you saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think yoga is 5,000 years old. I think it's around 30 years old. It was invented in U.S. cities. I think it was Los Angeles. So that in the 1980s in strip malls, so that rich housewives would have something to do during the day that would make them more flexible. So yeah, I mean, 5,000 years, give or take, but it's closer to about 30 years. But I agree, 30 years, that's not really new anymore. So my style of yoga and spirituality that I'm ushering in is much newer than the New Age. It's the newer age.
Interesting. Finally, have you been to our website, bookyogaretreats.com, and what do you think about it?
I haven't been to it, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Thank you.